Well, Dan, I know you're down there in the beautiful Carolinas where I don't was it is it warm down there? What's
We
it
just
at?
hit
What's
a cold spell. Actually, it got into the upper 30s, in fact.
so
So yeah, but we have lately it's been 70s. So we're
we
just hitting a couple days of cold weather.
we've been so erratic here in Illinois in the Midwest. It's been a nightmare. Literally last week Friday, like Thursday, Friday, it was in like the 60s. Weekend was in the 50s, and then yesterday and today, like in the negatives with the wind chills, some snow, some freezing rain. It's horrible. It is St. Patrick's
Right.
Day, so that's to be
It is.
expected. But it is also here in Illinois. Today is Illinois' primary election day. So I voted this morning. You get your little sticker, you feel proud, you go out and you do your civic duty. And so I wanted to pose this question to you. If we
Okay.
both have to vote right now and pick one NFL player, you're voting for one NFL player who you think will make it onto an all pro, first team all pro next year. Like, I feel confident I'm voting that person is going to be on the first team all pro. Who would you make a vote for? You feel like, you know what?
Are we saying and we're talking anybody?
Any you could pick kick
Anybody is
returner, you could pick kicker, but they're going to be on the first team all
right.
pro.
But like
And then
I could pick Josh Allen and
you
that
could,
wouldn't
you'd
be
be like,
topping out of this experiment.
no, because you
Okay.
bet that he's going to be the first team
Right,
all
right.
pro quarterback next year, right? Because my
Yeah.
thought originally was like, well, maybe we do like someone who's going to be in the top 3 MVP voting, but then it's just quarterbacks, right? I think it's a little more interesting. And so I've been thinking a lot of names, a lot of these names
I think
percolating in.
we should say quarterbacks can't be a part of this experiment, even though there's still a lot oftentimes disparity there, and
It's
like
hard.
Josh Allen's not going to make it every year. I do think it makes it
We
more
only get one,
interesting.
one of
I,
each position, right? We're doing like first team. I'm going like the first team all pro. So you only get like one of each,
right?
right?
Yeah, that's true. Like they've got to be the best at that position.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Well, my initial thought when you were saying this was Jackson Smith and Jigba
Oh, I love
for
that.
me.
Your
Yeah.
wide receivers, I think you get at least two first team all pros.
Yeah.
And I think
He's a
that
starting wide receiver on the best, yeah, in
yeah,
the draft
he
of the
had,
best
I mean,
players.
he to carry on to say, hey, he's going to have another repeat all pro season. I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah,
So like
I feel pretty good.
my gut safe bet was like, okay, like Joe Tooney. I feel good. Like my guy, Joe Tooney, best guard, one of the best guards in football, could get one of
Yeah,
those two guard spots. But if I'm going to go a little outside of the box, I'm going to say I think this guy is going to have an all pro year. Um, someone who maybe hasn't had the pop yet. I There's a couple names that come to my mind, but I really want to go. I really want to go with my guy Colson Loveland as the tight end. I think Colson
okay,
Loveland.
well, yeah,
I think Colson Loveland is like if there was a way to bet on any of the sports books of like, can you place a bet on like first team all pro like awards next year, like to pick the one tight end who's going to make it? I'm sure his odds would be. There's a lot of big time tight ends out there, but he had
yeah.
such a great end of the season last year,
Tight end's
and
hard though because there's a lot of injuries at that position,
there are,
and
and with the Bears moving on from DJ Moore, and I think there's just more targets maybe to go around. I think he could be in for a great year.
yeah, it could be
I
awesome.
may be being just influenced by a Colson Loveland hype video that I saw the other day on Twitter. That I'm like so ready to watch my guy play football again. Who else? And think of anyone else? Is there anyone else you would say?
I'm trying to think on the defensive side that I'd be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, for sure." I
like
mean, Micah
Miles
Parsons would
Garrett.
be a good bet, coming
Yeah,
back from injury, like something to prove. Um, but like Miles Garrett, of course,
yeah.
you know. But I was trying to think secondary. Who in the secondary could I feel super
McDuffie in the new
super
team
confident?
first year and first year with the Rams. Trent McDuffie. You know what I mean? He's a
Yeah, like
stud.
Cooper DeJean would be,
Yeah,
a
that could be a good
potential
one.
candidate there. But yeah, I mean, That is actually a more interesting thought experiment than I thought at first, because you're like, well, you got to pick it's someone you got to
It's
feel
only
confident is the number one
yeah, right.
or
Because like
number two at the
with
very least.
MVP, like it's like okay, who's going to be in the top three of MVP next year? I'm going to feel like Josh Allen, Lamar. I feel like could have a bounce back year. Be easy to, you're basically picking quarterbacks. Like running back is really tough because I'm just like I think that
From year
Kenneth
to year, you
Walker,
don't. I mean,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
Kenneth.
Kenneth
Yeah, I was gonna
Walker.
say Kenneth Walker. Can we?
Could he be just a bell? Could he end up being a real true bell cow back and have a great year in Kansas City? I think that Saquon Barkley will have a bounce back year. Maybe not what it was 2 years ago, but certainly better. Um,
McCaffrey's always got to be in that
Caffrey's always
discussion.
got to be in the discussion. So it's a fun thought starter for all of our football starved people out there. You want to chat with your buddies to try to figure out, make some predictions on who you think is going to be first team All Pro next year. They got to stay healthy. They got to have an elite year, and then the writers have to think they were the best still at that position. Because I think wasn't it
True.
the year that Josh Allen won MVP? He wasn't first team All Pro quarterback. It was one of those. It was like a more recent year where it was one of those weird ones where it was like either Lamar won
Mm,
MVP or first team All Pro, but didn't win the other. Like it happens sometimes
it
with the
does.
first team All Pro.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. And there's other players from this free agency cycle that could enter that discussion as well. But um, that particular discussion just got a little more difficult surrounding one Max Crosby. We get into that next.
Yeah.
Continuing here with our free agency frenzy reaction. We talked about Max Crosby to the Ravens last week. We were still waiting to hear where Kyler Murray was going to end up. We have Justin Fields being traded. So, a few things here to talk to, as well as a new edge rusher in town for the Baltimore Ravens. But it is not Max Crosby. It is, in fact, Trey Hendrickson, as they reneged on their verbal agreement to trade for Max Crosby, which it's one of those unique situations, Mark, where one, we don't see that happen very often. I personally can't remember the last time
No.
one happened, although I'm sure it's happened more recently than we would recall. But something the Ravens didn't like. Perhaps they're blaming it on the physical. They saw some things that didn't give as rosy of a picture of the long term prognosis for Max Crosby, because everybody knew he had knee surgery. Everyone knew he wasn't going to come in ready to pass a physical today. So there had to be something else in there that surprised the Baltimore Ravens. And a lot of people are speculating that it's the long term prognosis of the knee. They know he'll be fine this season for the most part, but maybe they didn't feel it was worth a 2 first round picks for someone that maybe they'll only have for a season. So an interesting situation there. And now the Raiders are not in a terrible situation, Mark, because they get a phenomenal player back on their team, and they can still technically afford all of the players they paid for, but they are kind of left holding the bag in some regards.
The news broke like an hour after we finished
I
last week.
know,
It
yeah,
was
great
it was
time.
crazy, but I think I look back on what we were saying in that episode last week, and I brought up the point that teams who trade 2 first round picks for defensive guys, we've seen it in recent history. It just hasn't really worked out unless their name is Matt Stafford. Um, uh, and so I think if I had to guess, I think it was a confluence of things. I think the Ravens people sat there, the decision makers in the room. They heard the pushback. You're kind of feeling like that weight of that decision. And then the medical team comes in and says, this is what we got. And I think they all looked at each other and said, let's get out of this. Let's get out of this. And I think the thing that made that easier was the fact that Trey Hendrickson, who we'll talk about here in a minute, was still on the market. And they could look at that
Right.
and they can look at that and say, hey, we have the money. This is what we are going to give in an extension to Crosby. Let's just give this to Trey Hendrickson, and we know who's healthy, but is still going to fit a position of need. And let's get our first round picks back. and still feel like we improved our team. And I think if you're Baltimore and if you're the Raiders, I think it's a win-win for both. I think Baltimore would be better with Max Crosby than Hendrickson. Yes. But I think Baltimore with Hendrickson and their first
And
round
their
picks
picks,
the
yeah.
next 2 years is going to be better than just with Crosby. I think if you have
And it was
distilled,
14. Like, they were
yeah,
picking pretty high in the draft
and
this year.
they haven't done that in a long time. So it's one of those. I'm like, I think for Baltimore it's a good thing, and I think for the Raiders the fact that if the money works out and you can keep everyone right, and you keep Max Crosby, then you roll with it. And so far it seems like he is embraced going back there. They've embraced him being back there. And I think it's a total win for both teams. I mean, the Raiders, would they love the picks? Yeah, but you're going to get your quarterback number one overall. And you just got a ton of things in free agency. And you were really aggressive in free agency because you kind of felt like you had to be after knowing that you were going to clear Max Crosby. Now, money's going to be tight for the Raiders, real tight. But they're not going to be paying anything for their quarterback, and if you're just adding draft picks at this point in time, which, they filled so many holes during free agency, it's one of those, it feels weird. I'm like, it feels like this should have just been how it happened. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, and so, what a weird good little saga it was. And anyone out there who bought a Max Crosby Ravens jersey, I feel bad for you. But those are going to,
Maybe that'll be worth
yeah, like
something
vintage. Yeah.
years down the road. Like, yeah, that'll be
Get
worth a
him to
pretty
sign
penny.
it, frame it. Yeah, maybe you can
Yeah,
make a pretty penny on it.
absolutely. Yeah, take it to Antique Roadshow. It'd be great. I've been binging that show
I
lately,
love
to be honest,
I
and
love
it's
me.
a great show to fall asleep to as well. I must add, just the soothing
Have
voices.
you ever seen the one where the lady thinks she has a slave collar? And it was actually the guy I'll send you the video. She's like talking. She's like, well, and the guy goes, it's actually just a dog collar from like the
Oh
it's
my
so bad.
gosh,
It's
that's so brutal.
it's so bad.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, I'll send you that video. I'll find it. I'll find it.
There's some really cool sports ones, on there, just, like, some very, like, unique finds. You'd be like, "Okay, like, I would never see this on display at a museum, but it's just a really cool piece." You've talked about the George Halas when we did our episode, which was really fun. We said, like, what piece of, like, NFL,
Oh yeah.
um, what NFL artifact or piece from NFL history would you wanna have in your collection? And you brought up the George Halas, it was like a boat or train ticket
Yeah, well, it
for
was he was gonna get on the boat, why the Eastland in Chicago. He was late. They were out playing baseball and he was working for, can't remember the company's name, not General Electric, Western Electric, something like that in Chicago, and they were doing a big company outing, because back then in the early 1900s, companies, they didn't just throw pizza parties. They rented out a giant boat and took all their employees from downtown Chicago. They were going to take them across the lake to Lake Michigan for a day on the beach and then sail them back. And the boat rolled over in the river and trapped
Oh,
people,
that's
like
right, he was supposed to be on there.
hundreds of people. That is the biggest maritime disaster um, on the continental United States. I think it still is the largest maritime disaster, and it happened right there in the river,
Crazy.
only like 15 feet deep. But the way this boat was, it was kind of like a giant submarine type
Yeah,
of old
trapped him.
school, and it rolled over, and everyone inside, because it was raining, everyone like panicked, went inside, and it rolled. And he actually jumped in the river and was part of the, like, he was on his way, like, we're making it. The team won the baseball game because House was drafted by the Yankees, for people who didn't know that as well, and multi-sport athlete. And he was part of the crew along the river, like trying to pull people from the river, and is, heroic. But yeah, I was like, that would be what a because again, Hallis, by all intents and purposes in NFL history, would we maybe have eventually had a football league? Yes, but we would not have the National Football League with professional football.
Oh, sure.
He was the godfather of professional
And you wouldn't
football.
have the Chicago Bears, so
I know, I know.
yeah.
So yeah, that was that story. Rant over.
Yeah, that's really cool, but maybe we'll see that on Antique Roadshow sometime
Yeah,
soon.
right.
But yeah, so to get to the other part of that with Trey Hendricks in signing, I do think it's great. That, by the way, the Raiders, yes, they'll be tight for cash this year, but then next year they'll have a lot of
Restructure.
opportunity to free up a lot of money. Um, Trey Hendrickson signs a 4-year, $112 million deal, so it's just a straight up signing there for Baltimore. Um, I kind of feel like the Bengals deserve Trey Hendrickson to be in division, you know? It's like their worst nightmare was to have him go to the Ravens, Steelers, or Browns, and here he is with Baltimore. Um, Really good signing for them, though. I mean, obviously, yes, Max Crosby currently is a better player, but I would say that the gap isn't that wide. So overall, I mean, they get a great player. They get to keep their first round picks. And he's a different type of player too, much more of a, inline defender that can obviously rush the passer great, but of, high quality against the run. So I think it's a really good fit overall with
Yeah.
Baltimore.
No, I think it's a great fit, and again, I think the fact that they didn't. It's a big contract. I don't feel like it's a giant overpaying contract, and you hope if you're the rate of a Ravens fan, you're like, okay, is it a little pricey for a guy who's on the wrong side of 30 for 4 years? Yeah, maybe. But we also just got this new defensive whiz young head coach, right? And you need to give him some weapons, some tools. And if by the fourth year of that deal, is it a bad deal? Or maybe you've cut him by then or whatever. Who knows? But you want it for the next 2 years, right? You want to get him in and playing an elite level this year and next year. And if he does that and you win a bunch of football games, then it was worth it. Then the contract was worth it. I mean, dead money is so weird. I sent you that thing. You could maybe pull it up. The amount of dead money the Dolphins have. It's like, how do they even have a team?
No, I know. It's crazy, like, the amount of money
Uh,
that they're spending.
I'm
I mean, they're spending just on the quarterback position alone,
like 90
close
million.
to yeah, yeah.
And so it's like, so when everyone's like, oh, overpaying, I'm at the point now with salaries in the NFL. I'm like, I don't know. They just make it work. I don't know how they
Yeah,
make
I
it
mean,
work.
it's
They
like
make it
kinda like
work.
the national debt to me. It's
Yeah.
just like, you just it's not even real anymore,
Not real.
It's just not it's it's not even real.
It's not real.
Um, but no, and the salary cap increases by 10, 15 million now every year.
Yeah.
And so it's like these guys are like, okay, maybe like now the hit seems like a lot, but in 3 years when the deal might look worse, it's actually in reality gonna be a lower percentage of our cap
Totally.
overall, and maybe won't be that bad. Yeah, $175 million over
For the Dolphins.
they're
Tua,
over.
Tyreek, Waddle.
Yeah, Waddle, we could talk about that too because
Yeah.
that news just dropped today. Waddle no longer.
A first round pick. So the Dolphins get the Broncos first, which is like the end of the first round, pick 30 or something like that.
Yep.
They also get a third rounder, and then they swap fourths. So basically, they get a first and a third for Waddle, and they have
Which
to
is
eat.
decent compensation, but, yeah, to your point, it's the
I think it's
very end
I
of the
think
first
it's
round.
I think it's pretty darn good compensation, all things considered.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
mainly
we everyone's acknowledged he has one capability, but he's been a 2 for the majority of his career.
yeah, and now he gets to go to Cortland Sutton, where he complements really well. So if I'm the
Yeah.
Dolphins, listen, I like it because here's the thing. On the outside, it looks like the Dolphins are going completely into the tank, right?
Yes.
So,
They're starting over
but they're
completely.
starting over. I still think the Dolphins could be a solid football team next year, right? I still like Malik Willis. I like the Halfley hire. They have Green Bay through the front office, head coach, and quarterback, right? They're okay. And now you're getting a lot of dead money. So the expectations are really low for Miami. And if Malik Willis plays, solid football, they have draft capital now. Like, I think it's a win in the sense that, hey, we're showing you we're heading in a direction, right? We have to retool. We have to clear off this old regime is gone, new regime is in. This is going to be not just a 1 year turnaround. And to get a first round pick and multiple picks, a first or a third, two quality picks
Yeah.
for a guy like that, I think is a great get. And then if you're Denver, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think this is Denver's version of I think the Bo Nix last stand. The Bo Nix story is very interesting. The way that ended at the end of the year with the injury, and then him and the Peyton drama that we touched on in the show, it makes it feel like it's not the perfect marriage, right? Like there's maybe a little bit of maybe just a little bit of friction there that you
There
wouldn't.
seems to be a common denominator in that
Yeah.
dynamic with,
Yes.
friction with Sean Payton and a
Yeah.
quarterback.
But what I guess the larger point I'm trying to get at is, listen, if you are the Broncos and you're Sean Payton and you're saying to your fans and to your coaching staff and to your organization, we gave him Cortland Sutton, we gave him Waddle, he's in my system,
Number 1 defense.
and it's still not looking like, like he's not
Yeah.
performing it the way I feel like it needs to be, then maybe it's easier to have the conversation about, we're not going to sign him to a giant contract, right? And if you're Bo Nix, you got to be pumped because, again, your goal is to get that giant contract and to be the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And it's going to be a lot easier when you have now Waddle and Sutton to throw the ball to, good quality tight ends as well. And they still have
Yeah.
Bryant, the young receiver out of Illinois, who came on strong there at the end. They still have that one other kid from Oregon. I can't think of his name. He played really well as a wide receiver with
Mims?
Knicks.
Are you talking about,
Now, who is the guy? He didn't have a ton of production, but he has good connection with Bo. So he's got weapons. Like we digress.
yeah, that's
He's got
the
weapons. It's another one of those. It feels like it's a smart move for both sides. If I'm the Broncos, if you're saying to yourself, hey, we're going to target a wide receiver at the end of the first round, well, come on. We know how it goes. But the end of the first round, you don't really want to be spending a first round pick on a wide receiver. Look at some of the late first round pick wide receivers that haven't necessarily panned out. Waddle, in my opinion, is better than what you're going to get at the end of the first round. So I can justify it in that way. When you're a play or two away from making the Super Bowl, giving up a first and a third and getting a huge, a wide receiver number 2 for your young quarterback you're not paying, that's what you should be doing. And if you're Miami, you should be clearing the books and starting over. So 2 for 2 on moves making sense for the Ravens, the Raiders, Dolphins, and the Broncos.
I just got this text from my dad. He says, "Hey, let Mark know that Ben Johnson was the guest speaker at my company annual meeting today." How about
Whoa!
that?
Way to
How
go,
about that?
Mr. Vasco. Mr. Vasco is going to be good, better, and best.
That's right.
That is
That's
good.
freaking sweet.
Who, without outing it, who does your dad work for now? I don't even remember.
He works for Jewel.
Oh, that's right. He was, because he was Dominic's for forever, but now
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
a Jewel.
yeah.
He's a Jewel man.
Yeah.
Hey, Jewel Osco, Chicago in its DNA. You better have
Chicago's
Ben
own.
Johnson.
Yeah, I literally can't tell anybody outside of the Midwest.
I love
They just
Jewel
won't
Osco.
know.
I
But
love Jewel Osco. Those are.
that's
I miss the Jewel Oscos. My mom refused to shop anywhere else growing up. She just
nice.
loved the Jewel Osco. Oh yeah.
A great place.
Yeah.
And now Ben Johnson knows it very well. That's so sweet. Hell yeah. All right. I don't have much more to say on Jalen Waddle because I agree
No.
pretty much with what you said there. And this was about the last opportunity that Miami could get a haul like that, and that it would be worth paying a haul like that. Because he's right at that point where it's like, okay, he's hitting his prime now, but like you give it 1 or 2 years, and all of a sudden he's going to be the older wide receiver that nobody really wants to,
With a big
shell
price
out
tag,
multiple
like
picks
Tyreek
for.
Hill, and they just had to cut him, right?
Right, exactly. We had Kyler Murray on the move, get signed by the Minnesota Vikings. That seemed like the most logical choice, and that was the team that we had kind of talked about when we were discussing potential landing spots for Kyler. He's winning this job, right? Like, I mean, something's got to go pretty bad, I would say, for Kyler Murray to not win this job. But if he doesn't win the job, I actually think that that's a really good sign for what JJ McCarthy's put out there. Because I just don't think poor play from JJ McCarthy is capable of winning against Kyler Murray. Because Kyler Murray's still a talented quarterback, I think.
So here's what I wish I could ask Vikings fans, because I think in my head I say to myself, if JJ McCarthy wins the job, in the long term, that's what you should want as a Vikings fan, right? The guy who's your first round pick steps up to the competition and clearly wins the job and plays really, really well, right? Like that's what you should want. You don't want do you really want Kyler Murray? Because then it's like, well, okay, he wins the job and you wasted a pick on JJ McCarthy. If Kyler Murray wins the job, I think you have to try to trade JJ McCarthy. Like, right? Like that's what I would be trying to do
Yeah.
because
I is
if
anybody
you
who's gonna pay you for him? But you'll get something, so I guess that's that,
someone will
but
give you a third round pick or something like that. I think.
but they only have Kyler for a year currently.
But
Now,
again,
yes, if he plays well, then you're like, okay, you're planning to lock him up for like a 3-year deal or something
yes,
like
you'd
that,
give him the
but
Darnold or you'd give him the Malik Willis, the Darnold deal, some sort of
yeah.
3 years between 50 and 100 million. Um, but again, like so as a listen, I'm trying to take my Bears hat off. As a person just analyzing football, it's one of those where I'm like, the Vikings, man, like this is I feel like they had to go do it because I don't believe in JJ McCarthy. But then I also feel like you're not in a great spot. Like this is not a great spot to be in for what you hope to be. You have maybe the best defensive coordinator in football. You have one of the brightest offensive minds as your head coach. You have an elite wide receiver core in their prime right now. A defense that is young and getting better, and it's like Kyler Murray, here we go. Like and in a division that's very quarterback now rich, and you look at Caleb Williams, who absolutely, I don't think it's even much of an argument. If you're trying to say that Kyler's better than Caleb, I don't think anyone's making that argument.
No, he's the best
Jordan
in the
Love,
division.
Jordan Love is absolutely better than Kyler, and then Jared Goff, I would still take over Kyler Murray. I think most people would as
Yeah.
well. And so you say to yourself, oh, great, we go and get this guy who's now the fourth best quarterback in the division. Or do we start our rookie who is clearly also the fourth best quarterback in the division?
But the floor is raised. The floor is raised,
I
would
think
say.
the floor is raised. And also you have a motivated guy, right? Like who gets away from Arizona and, listen, Phoenix and that culture too out there. It's beautiful weather. It's beautiful people. You're close to LA. I mean, Kyler's making a lot of money. I think maybe going up to Minneapolis and getting a little, taste of it. You're playing a dome, but just the humility of life in Minneapolis. I guess if you like playing video games, you'll have plenty of time to play video games inside. I'd be doing a lot of.
Minneapolis is a cool city, though. It is.
I know, but cool.
But
It's
yes,
very
it's cold.
cool.
It's very cold and can be miserable.
It
For a
doesn't
couple
have
months
it
out of the
doesn't
year.
have the life that a Phoenix,
No,
Scottsdale.
correct.
You know what I
Totally.
mean?
Totally.
So I think listen, I expect Kyler to play really well. I expect Kyler to win the job. I expect Kyler to be in a handful when I play against him, 2 times this year. I'm certainly that's what I'm mentally preparing for. I also just deep down in my core, I'll be honest, if I put the Bears fan hat back on, I'm like, oh, I feel relieved. Like this to me is they're not drafting a quarterback this year. If Kyler plays well enough, they'll sign him and he'll still guaranteed be the fourth best quarterback in the division. So like, I'm feeling, unless him and McConnell go win a Super Bowl and then we have to recalibrate everything, you know what I mean? But like
Right.
that's what he's going to have to do a Sam Darnold-esque run for me to recalibrate that Kyler is better than Caleb, Goff, and Love. And so, anytime your division rival commits maybe to a quarterback that you feel that is not as good as yours, and that's a rare feeling for me. I've never felt that way before. It feels good. It's going to be a great storyline to watch throughout the year. And then listen, if it's a disaster in Minnesota for both of them, then they're drafting a quarterback in the first round next year.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I don't get the sense that like O'Connell is on the hot seat at all or anything like that. So they really are just like, let's run it, let's see what happens here, and then we'll be
it's a new
prepared to do
GM.
whatever.
Remember, they fired the
Right.
GM but kept the coach.
Yes.
And so clearly the organization is looking at it as the GM has mismanaged the quarterback situation. New GM is going to say, listen, I'm not tied to McCarthy. If you're down with the coach, let me give you Kyler. You pick the better quarterback to start camp with and to start it all. roll it with the season, and then we'll evaluate it together at the end of the year and see how we move forward. I think
We'll take it from there.
it's a smart plan. It makes me a little giddy because I think as a Vikings fan, like honestly, best case scenario is you're drafting a quarterback in the first round next year.
Right, right.
Because I think best case scenario, if I'm a Vikings fan, is I don't want Kyler or JJ to be my quarterback for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, that's true. Unless Kyler really balls out, that would be quite a career resurgence.
Well, yeah, if he really balls out,
Yeah.
this Minnesota team is going to make the playoffs.
Could be very good. Yeah,
Yeah, they will. They will with that
yeah.
defensive staff and that head coach and those weapons. If he balls out, they'll make the playoffs, which I don't obviously is an issue for me.
On lesser quarterback news, but as we kind of wrap this up, this shorter episode here, and kind of put a bow on, at least for now, the free agency stuff. Justin Fields gets signed to the Chiefs. The New York Jets, just what a ride.
And they got a pick for him.
They did get a pick for him, which they should. I think Fields is still that type of unique athlete, and he's young enough that he'll stick around in the league as a backup for a long time. I would say, because he's still uniquely athletic. He helps your practice squad to do some of those scouting sessions. When you need to run scout team and you have a very athletic quarterback you're facing, it pays to have a guy in your team that can kind of demo that for you.
Yeah.
You're not having Mahomes out there running around like playing Lamar Jackson when you're playing the Ravens, right? So there's something to be said for that, I would think. And it's an interesting fit in Kansas City. I was like, he doesn't strike me as an Andy Reid quarterback, but if there's anybody that can figure out how to utilize their weapons, it's Andy Reid.
So so there's a lot I like that you said there. My instant reaction to being the backup is a long time is this like, Justin, to my knowledge, from everything I've ever heard, is a good locker room guy. And
Yeah.
you know it from his time in Pittsburgh too. Like the locker room wanted Justin, not Russ. Like there was, everywhere he goes, he's really liked. So he has that going for him. Justin's issue has always been health. Like Justin just physically has never withstood the test of a long season. Obviously, he takes the most sacks, and he also is he has extreme accuracy issues at times, right? It can just get off the rails for him.
Yeah.
But as far as an athlete and a quarterback, yeah, I would agree. I think, would it shock me if in 4 years from now Justin Fields is still on a roster as a backup somewhere? No, it wouldn't. But it would have shocked me if he was struggling to find another opportunity in 4 years from now. No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, but like guys with that experience just stick around for a long time.
Mitch is
Josh
a great
Johnson
example.
just signed on it with his 22nd team.
Like Zach Wilson is a free agent quarterback. Is he going to get another job somewhere?
It's fair. It's
really athletic. I would argue he's a better passer.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Now maybe you look at him as like he's a little pretty boy locker room. I don't know if he's a locker room issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for the locker room. Like Justin Fields has the makeup, and this isn't a disparaging remark. Like has the makeup of a really good backup.
Yeah,
like he will be a support system for his teammates.
They were in the same draft, and then and obviously he was taken ahead of Justin Fields. He was signed to Miami last year to be, if Tua goes down, don't worry, they can throw him in there. Yeah. And then it's like they went straight to Quinn Ewers. They didn't even give him a chance, right? And now he's a free agent. So I'm just saying the landscape can change quickly.
Yeah.
Trubisky
is still hanging around.
Trubisky is the new Chase Daniel. He really is like ultimate locker room guy, mobile enough. He's never going to threaten your starter, right? Like there's zero threat to the starter, but can win you 2 of the 4 games you might need him to play that year. If you have a quality team, quality coaching. I'll say this about Justin. I'm excited he landed in Kansas City. I'm excited he's going to have a chance to take a ton of reps this offseason with Andy Reid and Kansas City. And I think Andy Reid will absolutely have Justin Field packages. I think you'll see him and Bieniemy goal line stuff. There will be moments where you're like Justin Fields and Mahomes are on. I think there'll be moments where Justin Fields and Mahomes are on the field together. I absolutely think it. I think they will
See that?
utilize him as a weapon. And again, we've been saying it for years. The best job in the NFL, I would sign me up for this 5 year, $20 million to just be Mahomes' backup for 5 straight years, right? Just
Yeah,
living in a great city in the heart of America. And you might have to play once a year because Mahomes always tweaks a hammy or tweaks an ankle, right? You might have to play a half a year, or
sure.
on rare years when Mahomes actually gets injured, you play. And if you have to play, you're playing with Andy Reid as your head coach, right? Like in a winning culture. So I think maybe it also, to me, it shows that um, they're putting a lot of value in the backup position for the first time, you know, really, really saying, all right, we're gonna trade for a guy, not just sign Gardner Minshew off the street. We're
Right,
gonna
right.
try to maybe value the backup position. And if I'm Justin Fields, I just keep telling Pat, take your time, take your time.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a couple starts. Give me a couple starts because Justin's the type of guy that if he gets to start the first 4 games and looks really good, look at Malik Willis. He got to start like what 5, 6 games in 4 or 5 games in total in 2 years in Green Bay, but with an offensive staff in a really great culture, he became the give that guy a chance. And
Yeah.
and I think Justin Fields, if he gets to start 4 games and plays his best football, it might show offensive coaches around the league like I'll take a flyer on Justin Fields, in the future,
Yeah.
and that could certainly keep his backup status going for a while. But I kind of hope Mahomes isn't ready to go week one.
I almost think that Fields could do really well being like a Taysom Hill type for a team, but I just don't know if that's his career arc right now or trajectory. I think they're still too committed in him being a full time
Well,
quarterback,
and
but I mean, he has the makeup to
my
be
worry
that
for that
type.
would just be
The
the
injuries
injury.
would be the problem for sure.
Taysom Hill is like a Mack
He's a
truck.
yeah, yeah,
Justin
for sure.
Fields, I'll never forget when he broke his fingers. It's like on that weird, like he's just so athletic that he keeps plays alive and he scrambles and falls, gets tripped up, and then he gets up and his fingers like I'm like, well, there goes that
Yeah,
freaking season. It's like it's just, yeah. I mean, he can be frustrating,
it's
Justin. He
tough.
can be very frustrating.
Well, that wraps up this episode. We are getting close to the NFL draft in just a month, so we've got some
Oh,
prep
that's
shows coming up
true.
on the
Yeah,
horizon. We're gonna
yeah.
have
We
to start
may
talking about
the
what we're gonna
draft.
do for the draft. It's crazy. It's wild.
It is a little crazy. I'm not prepared. I got to start really diving
He's
into
getting
it.
choked up over here.
Well, it's the draft is one of those. It's like it it feels like for the first time in a long time for me, it's not like the most important thing on. Think about all the years we've been doing this show.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. I
always
guess
I've lived in the top 5, top 10, and it's like the future of your franchise depends on what you do. Will
right.
they take a haul or will they do
And now
this?
it's just kind of benign.
And
You're
I'm
like,
like
hey,
late
whatever. We'll
20s. What
take
do we
a
got? Yeah, best player available. So I'm not
yeah.
as I gotta be honest. I gotta lock myself in on the draft. I gotta lock
Let's
it in.
go. Awesome. Well, I'm happy for you. I'm glad it's come to that. It's always good. We always appreciate you all listening. We are part of the For Frequency Sake podcast network, so you can check out all of the other great shows on the network over there. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all the good stuff. And as always, we'll see you back here next week.